We are opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the Lord. We are opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the Lord. We are opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the Lord. We are opening, we are opening. We are opening, we are opening. We are opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the Lord. We are opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the Lord. We are opening, we are opening. We are opening, we are opening. We are rising up like a phoenix from the fire. Brothers and sisters, spread your wings and fly higher. We are rising up like a phoenix from the fire. Brothers and sisters, spread your wings and fly higher. We are rising up like a phoenix from the fire. Brothers and sisters, spread your wings and fly higher. We are rising up. We are rising, rising up. We are rising up. We are rising, rising up. We are rising up like a phoenix from the fire. We are brothers and sisters, spread your wings and fly high. We are rising up like a phoenix from the fire. We are brothers and sisters, spread your wings and fly high.
Hello, friends. Welcome. I'm so glad that you're here today with us. In just a minute, we'll light a candle. So if you'd like to join me in lighting a candle, this is a good time to grab one. We are excited to have with us here today two ChI friends to lead our service and help us delve into the deeper parts of ourselves. Reverend Anne-Marie founded Raising Sparks Ministry, serving unhoused people living in San Francisco. And Barrington founded the center, an organization established to serve as a container or house for the holistic universe here on earth. I offer you these opening words today. We, the ChI community, are a conscious, committed, and always evolving interfaith community. We devote ourselves to serving people through all the seasons of life as they seek to fulfill their highest destinies on earth. All are welcome, and all make us who we are. And I light a candle to remind us that the divine is with us. here as we gather today.
Thank you, Reverend Carrie. Can you hear me okay? Welcome, everybody. This is the chosen family right here. This is a chosen family of like-minded beings with big, spongy, empathic hearts and incredible passion for service and for self-discovery. And I'm proud to be a member of this community. And those of you who know me know I don't think it's that great to be part of a community, but this one it is. Because we're creating beloved community here, you guys. That's what Reverend Carrie's doing. That's what Reverend Andrew's doing. That's what we're all doing, is creating the community that we can fall backwards into each other. And I know that we can be ourselves here. So right now, I'd like to ask us if we could all just kind of get grounded in the moment. Take a few just deep cleansing breaths together. And as we do this, maybe bring up one thing you're working on shifting or changing about your own being. Something that's been sticking in your craw for a long time, a part of you that was shamed or disconnected or dissociated from the rest. We could just call that part in, just know what that is, or not. But I bet we all have stuff we'd like to change. And as we hold that bittersweet little piece of ourselves in love in this circle, let's invite in our higher powers, you guys. So I'm wearing my mother's ring tonight. I asked Mom, could you please come? I'm inviting all the ancestors who are well enough to participate in our own healing to come. I'm asking God, Goddess, Allah, Buddha, nature, interconnectedness, Mother Nature, Mother Earth, the sea and the sky. I'm asking that we receive all of your spiritual sparks, all the energy in this circle tonight, that this can be a healing for us. We can heal together tonight. One breath at a time. And we thank you for coming to be here with us today. So I just have a share that I'd like to offer. And then my beloved friend Barrington Walker Jr. will have a little something full of golden nuggets for you. And then we'll have some time to share wisdom among the group and a short closing ritual. So, you know, in Zen, we often talk about dualism and the dualistic world of good and bad and right and wrong, and that our human struggle is a struggle to return to our interconnected non-dual nature. Union with God. Same difference, right? So we want to get back to that interconnected nature. So we have good and bad, and we have right and wrong, and we have better and worse. And these judgments, these decisions we make about the quality or worth of our own human existence create their own reality. And even when we've sorted through some of this stuff, what I have found is there are much subtler levels within of constant judgment of good enough, not good enough, well enough, too sick, constant dualism within me, even if I've gotten rid of some of the trappings of it. So that's okay. We're inviting that in today. So once I've judged something or some part of me or some part of you or some part of my experience as wrong or worse or bad, I have decided what the experience will be for me. When something hurts, we call it bad. Something feels good, we call it good. And this energetic pattern of avoiding pain and seeking pleasure has been around as long as there have been beings to avoid pain and seek pleasure. So by the time I entered seminary, I had done quite a bit of work. I thought on learning to accept parts of myself that had been rejected early on in life. I had learned that this level of self-love was a radical shift from judgment and criticism to acceptance, and from shame and guilt to relief and joy. Appreciation of all the facets of who I am. And in continuing to free myself of these self-made prisons of judgment, I was a chronic judger. Oh, I was of the I'm not okay, you're not okay philosophy of life. Nobody was freaking okay with me, especially not me. And so I found it was so much easier to accept reality and other people when I started accepting me. So at seminary, I met Barrington Walker Jr., this young, poetic, passionate, creative being who taught me about this on a deeper level. And we ended up doing this talk together a year ago to offer it because I felt really called to reach out to him and thank him for what he taught me. When subtle judgments would arise in class or during our talks or working on homework together, he would be there to remind me that we're all perfect in our humanness, perfect in our divinity, whole and perfect in all of our experience in every moment and feeling. That our passion, our sexuality, our outrage, our anger, our joy, whatever we manifest is unblemished. Necessary parts of our wholeness of being, and to judge or reject one part is to rejudge and reject the whole being. He taught me how vitally important it is to embrace all of who we are lavishly and unabashedly. This level of radical acceptance of formerly rejected parts creates conditions for us to love more freely, take wise action more confidently, enjoy life more deeply, and serve others more effectively. For me, it's one of the keys to the kingdom or the queendom, if you will. So radical acceptance of ourselves, others, and reality itself are key foundations of Raising Sparks Interfaith Ministry, actually. We value this level of radical acceptance as essential to being able to help other beings in the most skillful way and bring everyone to the table. If we're not radically accepting all of us, how are we going to radically accept everybody else? And then people are going to get left out. So it's really essential work, I think, as a spiritual care provider. And I'm sure many of the people gathered here and not gathered here in the ChI community toil away in anonymity, working on self-acceptance, working on feeling like enough, right? So I think that the reason I keep practicing this is twofold. One is it really is opening my inner channel so that I can channel energy when I'm working with someone. It's allowing Reiki into my life. It's allowing a groundedness I didn't have before into my life. But I also want to add that it also frees the inner child to stop suffering. And if you use that model, and if not, we could say a neglected part of ourselves or a level of consciousness that has since been pushed to the background. And I'll give you a quick example. Recently, I noticed that I was getting a little too eager in my spiritual care sessions to get to the punchline. I was like, oh, here it is. And my sisters pointed out first, they happened to notice that in phone calls with me. So it started it was the family of origin. It's where we saw the trigger. And then I noticed it, especially in folks who are working with trauma. I was getting anxious to help. I didn't do any harm, a serious harm that I know of. I'm pretty happy. I mean, we're working together, everybody's okay. But I noticed it more subtly. And if without the self-acceptance and self-forgiveness and self-embrace that I'm working on, I would just go in the shame spiral of, oh my God, I can't believe those, oh my God, my spiritual care friends, they're gonna, oh, what did I do? And instead I felt like that for like a second, and I took a breath and I decided to be curious because I'm worth it. And then and they're worth it, and you're worth it. And this world is worth it. That's why I'm doing it, damn it. And what I found out was that eager voice is my inner child. And they do come to the room with me. They do not wait outside. They're not on a shelf. They're in my body. And they're really excited to help everybody. And they really want to show that they're worth love and attention. That insight, I never would have been able to reach that insight if I had not been doing this consistent self-love work. And I still have times where I don't like myself, or I don't feel that love. I still have times where life does not seem that appealing to me, and that's okay. And I'm becoming a healthier, happier human being and a healthier provider out of this, finding out what's going on in there. So when it comes down to it, the reason I preach about this freaking constantly to everyone that I work with and know is because self-judgment and self-rejection caused so much suffering in my life. It caused harm to my body. It caused harm to my relationships, my family, my heart, mind. I want to share the message of radical acceptance as an ideal, as a goal, so that other people might get some relief of the pain that comes with living in judgment and rejection of yourself. So I hope that I'm going to keep trudging this path. And I hope that you'll all come with me, moving toward self-love, of the darkest parts, of the parts that nobody wanted, of the parts that made somebody say, you're not worth loving, that part. So I'm going to bow out now, and I'm going to offer this space to Barrington so that he can offer his tidbits of wisdom. And thank you so much for listening.
I want to thank you all for being here today, my beloved community, both near and far, everyone that is present, that is not present, but is still here with us today. Thank you, Anne-Marie, for being on me with this journey of radical acceptance of darkness and light within. It is very, very important, very powerful, very moving to be in a space where one can embrace all that is within. My journey along this path started at birth, but it didn't grab a hold of me until, I want to say, maybe 6 or 7 years old, looking around and being very conscious of the world around me, being very conscious of the world within me, and realizing the differences, realizing the duality of the realms that we live in, of the realities that we live in, and those that swirl around us, like floating in the universe amongst the stars, amongst the planets. There are many different variations. However, all of these variations work together to make what is all that is. The reality that we are in, the reality that was before us, the reality that will continue to spiral after we exist in this plane. There was a time when I was so wound up and full of anxiety, full of disheartenment, full of all of the things that you can think of to make you question yourself, to question your life, to question the world around you. But something told me that there's nothing to worry about, that all that is present, all that is whole, and all that is here. I decided to start on a journey of deeper self-discovery of myself and the self that was not within me, the self that I could find within other individuals in this world, many of which are here today in this meeting, many of which will be watching this at some other point in time. And it made me realize again and again and again, not only in the active experience of embrace, but also in the desolate times of isolation and loneliness, that light and dark belong together, and they cannot exist without one another. The universe is compiled of so many different elements and so many different intricacies, but yet they all find space to be together in space. And is that not what we're doing here today? I was able to bring myself to confide and console with Reverend Anne Marie Coletta, excuse me, about these things, because I found very deep, compassionate, kindred spirit within the being that she is, within the words and the wisdom that swirled around us to be shared. And the most impactful part of this interaction was to see and feel and experience and hear and be all of these different light and dark things all in one moment, to have them swirling around like it was a pot and we were creating some magnificent jambalaya that would be served to the universe and all of its beings from the beginning of time to the swirling of the ends of the universe and beyond. Although there is such thing as light and dark, there is no such thing as light and dark. Although there is such thing as love and hate, there is no such thing as love and hate, and up and down and in and out, black and white, all of the variations of duality that we have set on opposite ends of spectrums. To me, they're like the two sides of a coin, back to back, facing out from one another, and in many ways searching for one another, walking in separate directions. And just as we are looking for what we may be looking for in this world, sometimes it takes for us to stop and maybe turn around, maybe look in a mirror, and to see that it's just right there all the time. When we look at that which we find to be light, we often look at that in the reflection of the things that we find to be dark. And in that, we see the connection of these dualities. And separately, these things stand just as powerful as they would in reflection of one another. We talk about the light, and when we think about the light, we think about things that are healing. We think about things that are illuminating. We think about things that lift us up and bring us towards some type of enlightenment. And when we think of the dark, we think about the things that hurt us. We think about the things that bring us fear, bring us pain, that diminish us from enlightenment, bring us down deeper into a place that we may be running away from, or we don't want to be, or something we don't accept, we don't know. But vice versa, when we're in these moments of darkness, is the light not there? Is it not something that we grab onto like a rope to pull us out of murky water? And when we're in the light, basking in the ambience of glory, do we not look towards those who may not be where we are and reach out in order to give them a hand, to bring them somewhere closer to where they want to be? This is the dance of light and dark. Like a mother and a child, they depend on one another. They have a relation with one another. I remember having a conversation with Anne-Marie, Reverend Anne-Marie, about anger, as anger tends to be one of the most feared aspects of darkness, depending on how you look at it. I've learned that anger has both a dark side and a light side. When we are angry, we may come up with different ideas. There are different sparks, Raising Sparks Ministry, that compel us to take action, that compel us to have new ideas to bring forth, that compel us to break out of the things that are holding us back from experiencing the fullness of the life that we have been embodied to live. That anger is also the thing that helps protect us in moments where we feel we need protection. And that darkness that comes from anger is strong enough to help us break the mold of the things that restrict us. Anger subsides and brings compassion. Compassion for the self and compassion for others, especially if that anger has caused any pain to others. We find ourselves in a space of contemplation. We find ourselves in a space of wanting to do something to bring more love, to bring more embrace, to bring more truth, to bring more wisdom to this space which may be riddled with a lot of elements, I will call them, that may not sit well in one space or another in our being. However, I found that these elements that may cause me to feel or think or act or be in a place outside of myself allows me to explore a side of myself that may have been pushed away and locked down because of whatever we have in our personal universe that causes us not to embrace those things. And I've also found that that phenomenon comes with the manifestation of disease and dis-ease. I realized then that breaking away from the natural lightness and darkness, however it may present itself, manifest itself, is a detriment to my own being. It's a detriment to the beings that I am in community with. It's a detriment to the beings that I am not in community with. And it can also be the tool of enlightenment. To use these elements to bring forth gifts, like sharing articles of anger and disenchantment and disacceptment with a kindred spirit. We find that we are dancing amongst the flames, that we are igniting in the air as if we were partying around a campfire. And is that not light? Is that not love? Is that not enlightenment? Is that not an embrace of wholeness? And in the moments when we come to compassion, when we come to caring, are we not reaching out to one another? Are we not holding one another? Are we not consoling one another and still yet dancing together? Maybe in sorrow, maybe in tears, but we are still dancing together, embracing one another in our light, in our dark. And from there, we find wholeness, we find truth, we find love, we find enlightenment, and we also find the beginning of the new journey that we embark from that point forward, which will still be filled with lightness and dark, still be filled with anger, still be filled with compassion, resentment, joy, wonder, beauty, all of the things that were there before, regardless if we embrace them or not. This is the reality of embracing light and dark. As the sun rises and sun sets, this is the reality of light and dark. And is that reality that brought me from the East Coast to the West Coast, to Star King School of the Ministry, to the Chaplaincy Institute, to this wonderful, beautiful community, to all of you, my beloveds. Remember, as you were manifest in the body that you are, so will all of the elements of lightness and dark. But just as you are manifest and you move and you think and you feel and you be in your wonderful holisticness, so are these things. And they will continue on just as you will. So embrace them. Learn to live with them, learn to learn from them, and let them be. Now I'm going to pass it over to Reverend Anne Marie or Kari, and we can move on to the next part of this wonderful meeting.
I'll just jump in. Thank you so much, beloved friend. Oh, I love having your wisdom wash over me. Oh, wonderful. Okay. Well, I'm thinking about in the beginning, I said, if you wanted to, you could pick something that you've been like working with or not super happy with or whatever. I'd like, if you did drum something like that up, bring it with you now to this little ritual. So I'm going to ring a bell to start our little ritual. Remembering the things we wish to accept, transform, holding those things in total acceptance, we take 3 prana breaths together. And one more. As I ring the bell, Barrington Walker Jr. will introduce us to our first 2 elements.
From the darkness of the universe and all that is, I invoke the flames to start us on new journeys, to burn passionately in the air, in the sky as it passes from the east to the west, shining out radiant energy along our journeys throughout space and time to the end. And then I invoke the waters of our planet, of our universe, of the skies, as we use them to wash and wane our emotions, to hold our secrets that are deep down within us, and to help us move through the illusionary magic of our dreams.
And I am bringing this evening the earth element. I brought a stone. I am seeing dark, rich soil, golden light, earth and death as not separate, two sides of the very same coin, flowering and composting, not separate, dark and light like the front and back foot walking, we say in Zen. The relative and the absolute coming together. And the air element, I take my zazen posture and I ring this bell. And as I breathe, I think about expansion and contraction. And I think of Kokoman, who taught some of us drumming, who said, life is nothing but wind and rhythm. Just like my mouth forming these words and my lungs pushing out the air. Thank you to these four elements for helping us to transmute that which needs to be transmuted and to first embrace what needs to be embraced. And we thank our higher powers and our ancestors and our spirit guides, God, Goddess, Jesus Christ consciousness, Allah, the God of infinite names that came to join our circle today that never actually leaves it, and say thanks for coming, you guys. Yeah, thanks for coming. And thank you all for coming, beautiful circle. And I pass it to Reverend Carrie, our beautiful, wonderful community minister.
Thank you so much, Anne-Marie, Barrington, each of you beautiful souls who joined us today. As Anne-Marie says, next Saturday at 4 o'clock, we'll have another chance to get together and talk about topic-based things, but Anne-Marie and Barrington will be here to talk about Raising Sparks Ministry and the center in specific. So if you're interested in the ministries that they are living, please come Saturday at 4. If you don't see the link, email me, text me, message me, tweet me. I'm here. Now, as we close our time together here, we let the sacred circle go. I remind you that all of those scary things, the imposter syndrome, fear, anger, being unsure of your feet on the ground in some moments, these too belong. These are part of what makes you the humble, gifted minister, clergy person, seminarian, spiritual director, human being that you are. This too belongs. This too is who you are. This too is sacred and holy. So as our time together ends and our circle here is released, I invite you all to remember you are holy, you are whole, you are good, and you are deeply, deeply loved. Go in peace, friends.